In your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, you deserve to live your best life. Say goodbye to preconceived notions and let's shatter those stereotypes together. Get ready to own your vitality because age, well, that's just a number.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. If you haven't, please take a quick sec and subscribe to the channel, like the video, just helps us out. And also make sure that you don't miss anything because we are putting out regular content every week. And so today, Ruth, we are going to talk about how fast can you gain muscle.
Sounds good.
So now let's put it in perspective. How fast can you gain muscle in your 40s is where we're going to go because, you know, we are a channel that we are about helping all of us that are in our 40s and 50s and beyond.
50s and beyond.
And so we want to talk about how that's relevant for us. Now, what this isn't then is how fast can you gain weight?
No.
Right? Because we can all do that.
We're talking about muscle, not just fat.
Yeah, so we can all do that. It's easy to gain weight.
Of course it is. Everything tastes so good.
Right? And so we are not talking about that. So the first thing we need to identify for this to make sense for us is what is your training age, not how old are you?
Right.
Right? So are you coming to the gym, never trained before, or you haven't trained in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
Right.
Okay? So if you're because if you're basically call it a newbie, you're going to have newbie gains that you'll experience that won't be relevant as you go down the line.
Because even someone who has trained in the past and then took a long break, we talk about muscle memory, where the body will, it used to have it, it's easier to get that back, but a newbie has never had it.
Right. Yeah. Or the muscle memory applies here as well. If you're coming to the gym after a long layoff, you probably fit into one of these categories.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to look at this from the perspective of your hot off the press going to the gym for the first time or going back for the first time. We'll call that the beginner, the zero, number one, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Then we're going to talk about the categories will be 2 years, 3 years, or 4+ years.
Okay.
Okay. Because it's all different based on those numbers. Because the longer you train, the less muscle you will gain year by year.
Oh, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've heard lots of and read a lot of research about different ideas about where is that top threshold. Is it 10 years? Is it 7 years? Is it 12 years? But we're not going that far ahead, but let's just say, and if you've been doing it for 10 or 12 years, more power to you. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm always afraid to stop.
Yeah. But so, okay, let's talk about number one. If you're coming hot off the press, 20 to 25 pounds is what you can expect to gain in your first year. Okay?
Okay.
So that's about 2 pounds a month.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you're a woman, that number is 8 to 15 pounds, which is roughly about a pound
Big
a
difference,
month.
eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a bit difference.
Yeah.
So how much, when you started, do you remember how much you gained at the very beginning?
Yeah. So when I, probably in my I would say it was my first 3 years that I grew the most.
Mm-hmm.
And probably I would have gained, well, I went from like 105 pounds to 135 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in 3 years, that's kind of what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Number two, so if you're in the 2-year bracket, for guys, that's 10 to 15 pounds a year.
Okay.
Okay, that's about a pound a month.
Right.
Okay, and for the girls, that's 4 to 6 pounds a year.
Yep.
Which is about a half pound.
Yep.
Every month. So at 3 years, it's 5 to 6 pounds for guys, which is about a half pound per month, give or take. For women at that point, it's somewhere around 2.5 pounds.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't make and at that point, it's not worth figuring out what it is by the month.
No.
But roughly it's somewhere in there. And then if you're 4 years or more, for guys, it's going to be 2 to 3 pounds a year. And for the girls, it'll be 1 to 2 pounds per year.
So the biggest, the first year is the one that you're going to see the most.
Yeah, and like you saw, in the first 3 years, certainly you'll see the biggest jump. So really what it comes down to when we talk about these numbers is these are, obviously these are averages, okay? So, but what we can take from that is if you are gaining more than that in that time frame, like if you're gaining, and let's just say we're going to talk about the average, okay? Not there are people who are genetically gifted that they will look at a weight and add muscle, right?
Right.
But these numbers are just based on the average.
Right.
Okay. So for the average person, if you are gaining significantly more than that, there's a really good chance you're not just adding muscle at this point. Right?
Right.
So as we're doing this, you need to just take that into account, because it does no good for you to add muscle and then a whole bunch of fat, because now you got to go back and take care of it later.
And back in my personal training days, I used to tell people, a lot of times the girls I would train would come in and they wanted a number on the scale. And I would often say, okay, wrap your head around the number, but sometimes more importantly than what the number is, it's what the number consists of.
Yeah.
How much of that is lean muscle mass? How much of that is body fat?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so there are a couple of things that we have to figure out when we talk about this. Okay, so first thing is genetics.
Yeah.
Okay, again, these numbers are for the average individual.
Yeah.
Okay, but there are people who are genetic freaks, right? Who are like I said, they'll look at a weight and they'll add muscle. Okay. Yeah. So we're talking about the norm, the average, the everybody.
Yeah,
kind
the
of
everybody.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's put that aside. So genetics aside, or in terms of the superior genetics, really, if you have superior genetics, chances are you're not watching this channel to figure out how fast you can gain muscle.
You've already got it.
Right. Or, it's not that complicated for you. But the other part to this that's vital for this to happen properly is going to come down to training, nutrition, and recovery.
Yes.
So we're going to talk a little bit about those, but we don't want to spend a ton of time on it because we've talked about some of those things before. But really what this comes down to is you have to make, if this is something you say is a priority, you have to make a commitment to the whole process, right? It can't be, I'll try it for a week or 2 weeks or whatever the case might be.
No.
Because, here's the other thing. And all of our minds, our brains are always looking for safety and what is known. So anytime you try and step out of the your comfort zone, you step out of the known, even if it's a good thing, like going to the gym or working out. Your brain freaks out, or your subconscious freaks out and wants to pull you back to what it knows.
Right.
Right. So there has to be a commitment that we make in this process to say, I'm going to do this. And we talked about things like understanding what your why is and all of those things for that. So we're not talking about that today, but there has to be a commitment that you're going to commit to nutrition, training, and recovery to see the optimal muscle gains.
And if it feels uncomfortable, it should, because it's something new.
Yeah.
And so don't back away from that. Actually, just go through the process.
Right.
Embrace it.
Yeah. So, okay, let's continue on from there. Number 3, supplements. Yep. Okay. So let's start with saying this. We are not talking about PEDs. Okay. If people as they age, they're taking PEDs to compete in different competitions and things like that. That's fine. But, whether you choose to do that or not, that's not what we're about on this channel. The health risks are huge for taking PEDs. But if someone takes steroids and they gain a whole bunch of muscle, the flip side of it is when they go off of those steroids, the muscle will also disappear.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if you've built it naturally,
and you've built it, it's with you.
Right. And you can keep training.
Yeah.
Without the other repercussions. And of course, we're not going to get into that today, but the dark side of the fitness industry is PEDs, diuretics, all of those things.
Yeah. Okay. In my own case, I look at it as though it took me 10 years of training, and I did it naturally. I competed in a natural organization. And so it took me 10 years to build the muscle. And once I won the world championships and I wanted to bring my muscle down, it's taken me 5 years so far, and I'm still decreasing it. So it was a slow process to gain it, and it's a slow process to take it down.
So That aside, okay, so we're not talking about somebody taking PEDs. There's a study that somebody that was taking steroids and not working out at all actually gained more muscle than someone naturally training at the gym.
Wow, I bet.
So that's not what we're talking about. When we talk about supplementation, the two most important, we're not going to break them down in detail today, but the two most important supplements that should be a part of your regimen, protein powder and creatine.
Yeah.
Now, again, we are not doctors, so if there's some reason that you think there may be an issue with that for you, you should talk to your doctor and get some feedback.
And keep in mind, the name supplement is exactly that. It's to supplement whole foods. It's not to replace whole foods. So it's meant to add to what a regular diet.
Right. Okay. And so the next thing we want to wrap it up here is training, nutrition, and recovery. Okay.
Rest.
So, and as far as training goes, the big thing, if we want to get the optimal results, especially if you're starting out or going back to the gym after a long break, is the big compound movements.
Yeah.
So, we call them the big five, right? So it's bench press, shoulder press, chins, deadlift, and squats.
Yeah.
The big five. So ideally, you want to incorporate those multiple times into your workout week, okay? And especially as we age, 2 to 3 times a week is fine to do those. You have to adjust the volume. So it's not like going in and blasting away on day one so that you can, barely walk after doing your squats and deadlifts, and then you don't come back because you have to wait until you're not sore.
Right.
So you have to adjust and we've talked about that in different episodes, so we're not going to talk about that today. But the point is, those big compound movements are going to help build the overall mass. You might say, what about my arms? Your arms are going to get work from from bench press, from the shoulder press, all that work that you're doing for the major body parts. So but the thing is, it's going to help your whole body adding muscle.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a big one, and making sure that you have the right frequency and volume. So 2 to 3 times a week is what we're seeing right now from the science that's coming out nowadays. So you can figure out what that looks like for you. It's got to work with your schedule and everything, right?
But keep in that rest day. The recovery is really, really, really important.
Yeah. And
I often tell people I don't train on Sundays. Someone asked
Same.
me,
Yeah.
didn't see you in the gym on Sunday. It's like, that is my rest day. And
Yeah.
that's probably the most important day.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the same. I don't train on Sunday either. So, okay. Just from a nutrition point of view, and we've talked about this also, so I'm going to make it real short and sweet. You should be aiming for 250 to 50 calories in excess of your maintenance calorie intake. So you need to find out what that number is. How many calories do I need to consume so that I just maintain my body weight?
Yeah.
And then add 250 to 500 calories to that, so that you can control what's being added in terms of fat versus muscle.
If you don't eat enough, if you don't have enough nutrients in your body, it's hard to grab something from nothing to build from.
Yeah. So there's two sides to that. You need to eat enough, but not too much.
Right.
So
there's a sweet spot in there. You got to find it.
Yeah. No pun intended. Right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. If you haven't, please take a sec, like and subscribe. That helps us out, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.